Welcome to the Brothers in Business podcast. Today we're talking about overcoming hate. Now, again, me personally, probably like a lot of people, there's been a lot of hate, whether it's to do with school or work or people trying to knock you down. And, over time you overcome those things. So diving straight in, I'm sure you're probably the same with some of the things that you've had to overcome, probably especially school. I know what you look like.
What a great way to start. I mean, I was always very tall and skinny. So obviously I grew up, I was quite lanky and, I didn't start going to the gym until I was about sort of 16. So, it was one of those, I always had really big front teeth. Don't know whether you can see through the camera just to out myself. I like to think I've got quite a nice smile now. They are mine, if anybody's wondering. But it's true, you go through school and school's a tough place. Kids are brutal. Everybody at school has a bit of bullying. It's just something that you start with early because, when you join in a friend group and you're new to an environment, it's one of those things you're trying to find your feet. But, for the most part, I enjoyed it and I was lucky that, I had a good group of friends and we weren't really that typical group of lads that rinse each other quite regularly. So I know a lot of groups are different to us, but as far as overcoming hate, I was quite lucky at schools. Put it this way, a lot of people, people got it worse than me. And I think it's something that we should all probably try to help encourage away from. But obviously, as far as overcoming hate, I know you've probably got a lot on that because you've probably overcome a bit more than me in your time.
Yeah, all right. Like I said, I mean, school, there was the little bits of bullying, nothing crazy, but there's
it was the hair. I've got to be honest, it was the hair.
I mean, I don't even want it. People will probably find if it ever got to that stage.
No, we're going to insert a photo. Actually, we're going to share a photo.
But yeah, I mean, I used to have long hair. Again, as hard to believe as that might be, and just not very popular, like gamer sort of kid, and had my select group of friends. Still got rinsed by them as well, as we did with each other. But, that's just that sort of friendship group that we had. But, it sets you up for later on in life. And when you've managed to get over those things and then you encounter it later on in life, as I did again at work.
From our dad.
Yeah, you understand how to get over it and understand. I suppose people are just trying to polish their own ego sometimes, a lot of it.
How did you get over it then? So what were the things that you were doing actively to think, do you know what, as much as I'm getting it in the neck, and I'm not going to say every day, but as much as you were getting it in the neck, like what were the things that you were thinking about to help you sort of overcome it at the time?
Yeah, so I mean, say you've not cleaned your room and like you get it in the, and this is now kind of going back to home, but it's the easiest example. If you've not cleaned your room, you have it in the neck. And then, the next day or the next couple of days, you have it in the neck again because you haven't done it. And then you think, keep getting in the neck. And then like, again, another week passes and and then eventually you got to either just think, I'm going to keep getting told that it's not, I'm doing something wrong, or you got to just fix it and just learn from it and actually clean your room or actually do the thing that you've been told that is wrong. Like, so for work, if you've not done the right thing, or you've done something wrong, or you've not made a sales call, or if you've not done something, by learning from it is to then actually do the thing that you've been requested to do.
But it comes from two places then though, really, doesn't it? Because there's two types of hate, because one can be founded and the other one might be unfounded. So again, what I mean by that is somebody could just be bullying you because of their own low self-worth, potentially, and they're just lashing out for whatever reason. So if I was, let's say, bullying you for your long hair, which I might have been guilty of a few times.
I'm loving this episode.
But, for example, if I was, and you might have loved your hair, and to be honest, I think I remember it was more to do with, what mom wanted rather than you, but you might have loved it. And if you gave into that hate and said, well, you know what, I'm just going to conform to what everybody else wants me to do, and I'm going to listen to everybody else, then I couldn't think of anything worse, because then you're allowing other people to live your life and you're living for everybody else and you're not living for yourself. So that's something where you've got to be really careful. If you're trying to overcome hate, then you need to be really careful about who you're listening to.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got, exactly. I mean, as much as Dad was, how he was with some of these things. He did come with these points with like how to improve a lot of the time. It's not just, well, that wasn't very good. And I know this is slightly different, but that's how I learned to deal with, those sorts of things that I hate. It's negativity. So it's yeah. I mean, what about you?
Well, obviously being competitive, it's one of those things where I'm really self-critical. So for me, it's one of those where I'm my own biggest critic. And when other people tell me I can't do something, or if I'm getting hate for not doing something, I'm very quick to self-judge and self-improve. So for me, I would look at it, and if they had a foundation for what they were saying, so if I was trying to compete in a team sport and I know I've let the team down. So I was playing football as a kid. I wasn't the greatest, but I worked really hard. When it came to game day, I was working on the pitch as one of the hardest members of the team because I didn't want to let anybody down. And, you still find yourself in positions where you might have either sort of allowed a sort of strike to run past you and sort of get a goal. And at that point, for me, that was when I sort of started to veer more towards like solo sports because, for me, when it comes to like overcoming that sort of negativity, I was very harsh on myself. And when I did solo sports, I was the only person that was responsible for the outcome rather than sort of team sports.
Blame everyone else. So you get a bad striker who can't score a goal.
Yeah, well, it does come to that. But it's one of those things where because of that sort of self-criticality, it's one that it pushed me to drive myself forward. So overcoming hate for me, I was very selective of who I was listening to. My dad, obviously, hate's obviously the wrong word, but, he was trying to give lessons. But as a kid, you're not really looking for the lessons in what they're saying. You're just hearing a nagging parent, aren't you, saying, do this, do that, do the other. And it sounds, brush your teeth, clean your room, do some chores around the house, help your mom out, be polite, eat correctly, use your knife and fork properly. All these things, they just sound like nagging and it sounds sort of like hate. But if you actually are selective about who you're listening to, i.e., your parents are usually a good one. They usually want the best for you. And if you listen and learn and actually, rather than just thinking of it as hate, how do you overcome it? To your point, you actually take the lessons from it and then use it to your advantage. So that's how I overcame hate, was taking the key points from what people were saying. So if people said, at school, you're lanky, you're tall, I would look at that and sort of go, well, am I happy with that? Does it bother me? Is that how I want to look? Or actually, is it something that I want to improve about myself? And I thought, do you know what? It is, I need to be in better shape. I need to eat correctly. I need to have a good diet. And I need to start sort of, training and being more conscious of my health and fitness. And I started to do that and I used it to my advantage. Now, I could have, again, gone home, cried, buried my head in the pillow and sort of said, I'm never showing my face to, humanity ever again. And just, where would that have got me? Do you know what I mean? So instead, I've used it to my advantage. And I think that's what people should do when it comes to overcoming it.
Yeah. And then I suppose the whole, we had it less so. And a lot of the hate probably comes now from the social media side of things where it's, you can't get away from it and people find it difficult. But again, you can still apply the same lessons where, if you've been told, you're fat or something at school and you're not happy with yourself, it's difficult, but you got to try and find the drive within yourself to maybe try and make a change. It's not, if everyone in the world is telling you something and you don't think it yourself, or you're getting the odd person who tries to just, butter things up, then, sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world to try and listen and improve. Like
you end up being delusional.
Yeah.
I mean, the big one recently, this was a real sort of, it hit home. It was quite sad, was the Liam Payne thing.
Yeah.
For that, he's a guy that is exposed to the global audience. He's someone that was skyrocketed into stardom. You know, we've just done an episode on overnight successes, and he was absolutely skyrocketed into, you know, huge fame. And again, going back to that, you know, he worked so hard on his singing in his career, and I think he went on X Factor sort of twice. It was his second time that he ended up sort of getting into the boy band One Direction. And even then he'd been voted out or knocked off the show. And then he was brought back later. But for someone like him, you know, and talking about social media, you only have to go on the comments and see the amount of hate that these people are getting online. And, you know, some of the stuff he was doing, it was cringe and it was a bit weird and it was a bit arrogant, potentially might be the word, with what he was saying. But, you know, the lad's in his 20s and he's got so much still to learn, and he's a father and he's going to be making mistakes. And anybody that is putting themselves in the global eye of or the global world audience, and they just get hung to dry. You know, they 1 minute they can be the best thing in the world and everybody loves and adores them, and then the next thing, everybody is tearing them to shreds. And, you know, that can lead to things like alcoholism, drug addictions, low self-worth. And once you've started going down that rabbit hole of not trying to overcome the hate and allowing yourself to sort of listen to the hate and give into it, you know, Liam Payne being an example, that can be a result of allowing that hate to overwhelm you.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I mean, did you know part of the story of that, of what actually, how it kind of spiraled to that? It's like his ex-girlfriend had wrote a book or something and then was telling him how he was going to publish it. And then he kept trying to call her to say, like, probably don't do it or whatever. And she was like, almost like a tell-all of like his life and like about how, and it's just sad because people, you know, just prey on these people. Like you see it in all these films, and you like Elton John, you see it with
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley is another mad one. Whitney Houston, like all these people, they get to such a level of fame, and then people just tear them apart, take advantage, because they're like we've said in the past, they're just people, and they just love something that they do, like whether it's the singing or anything, and that's how they've got there, through their passion. And then people have just taken them down because
like
the hate.
Vultures.
Yeah, the vultures. Yeah, exactly.
Evil. You know, people that prey on people like that, and they know from the start as well. They must see it. You know, I know Britney Spears was a big one that came out in the wash recently, where people, you know, they must see them, their light starts to shine, and then all of a sudden they just latch onto it and go, "You're next. We'll have you." And they'll start to take them for everything they can, you know, and it is disgusting. But again, it comes for me then. So if that ever happened to me, you know, and we're talking about overcoming hate, the way I look at things is it's almost like a mental bank account. You know, no one can take away your own self-worth if you've got a cemented confidence in yourself of who you are, what you stand for, and your beliefs. And then, you know, there's always that sort of phrase, you know, sticks and stones break your bones, but words will never hurt me. You know, there's true elements to that. You know, words will only never hurt you if you're truly unfazed and truly comfortable in your own self. And that comes from having a confidence in who you are and asking yourself who you are and what you stand for, because you're never going to be able to please everyone all of the time. So a way to start doing that, and it's an exercise that I use, is thinking of yourself or your mental health anyway as like a bank account, and then using it as a withdraw and deposit kind of policy, where every day I think to myself, you know, what sort of deposits can I put into my own mental health bank? Things like going to the gym, eating well, drinking lots of water, spending time with loved ones, friends, family. And a massive one is giving back, helping people. That's such a big deposit into your own mental health, because nothing, trust me, as that I've found anyway, gives me more fulfillment than helping other people. And that can be done in any capacity, whether it's helping strangers, helping your friends, helping family. It can be done in any capacity. You know, just giving back to people gives you so much fulfillment. So they're your deposits. And look, it's different for everyone. So everyone's going to have that sort of, you know, different way of depositing into the mental health bank, as I call it.
The happy bank.
The happy bank. I love it. Yeah, the happy bank. But then think about what you're doing to withdraw from it. The going out, getting drunk, partying, and potentially having fallouts with your friends, staying in, sitting on your computer all day, not exercising. And slowly but surely, if you keep withdrawing from that bank account, your self-worth is just going to go into the toilet. And then if you have to start dealing with hate and your self-worth is already in the toilet, you're going to start listening to that hate and you're going to start believing it, and you're going to go, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am worthless. Maybe I am, not very good at this, or maybe I'm, not the best person. And you start to believe it and you give into it. Whereas if your happy bank is full of all of these really positives, and somebody comes along to you and says, you're a terrible person, and that last week you spent time helping a friend or helping a family member with something that meant a lot to them, you can just bat that off and overcome that hate and just tell them, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're delusional. You're stupid. I don't need to listen to you because I know who I am as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this similar sort of analogy. Again, it's kind of like, you wake up, you want to fill your brain. Imagine 2 glasses of water, and then you can either fill those glasses of water with, clean water or dirty water, and dirty water are negative thoughts, and clean water is positive thoughts. So again, things that I've done in the past, which, it has helped me whenever, because everyone goes through these things. Everyone has patches. No one's just happy and on cloud 9 their entire lives. People always get things and knocks and stuff that happens, or whether it's relatives that, pass away or whatever, things like that. Like everything happens to people. You go through bad times. So what I've done is I get like a book, and then every day I'll write down, the first thing I'll do is write down something positive about myself or about a job or something I'm happy about. And then every single day you just start your day with a positive note, and then it sets you up, and you fill in that glass with clean water instead of checking your phone, checking your Instagram, looking how perfect everyone else is. And you think, you're just filling yourself again with dirty water, negative thoughts, rather than clean water and happy thoughts.
I love it. No, do you know what? That's really quite important for people to do. And I think it's such a small action to take that has a massive impact. What's getting up in the morning? How long does that take you to do that?
Not even a minute. You just write it. I've got the pen right by my bed, lovely Parker pen, and my book, and I just write a quick note in. Takes minutes, not even a minute.
I think everybody needs to do that. I'm going to take a lesson from you and start, because I think it's important. I think, like you said, a thick skin is built in the confidence, or in your own self-confidence of who you are. And, confidence can be built through having a purpose in life. If you're on a mission where you know what you want to achieve and who you want to be, it becomes so much easier to have confidence in who you are, because you know what you're giving back to the world. And, a really good person who's really blown up recently is Simon Squibb, who's started Help Bank. And he was a guy that, was a really successful entrepreneur, sold his business for tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions. And, that would have netted him a living, or enough money to make a sustained living for probably not only his life, his kid's life, maybe even his kid's life. So he doesn't have to do anything now. He could sit at home with his feet up, but would have just completely taken his purpose away from him. It would have put his confidence into the toilet of who he was. But instead, he's decided to go around helping people. And if none of you have ever seen Simon Squibb's videos, honestly, go and have a look at him, because the things that he's doing at the minute are absolutely incredible. He will go up to most people that are strangers on the street, random strangers, and stick a microphone in their face and ask them the question, do you have a dream? And it's such a profound question, because again, most people don't know. Most people haven't thought about it, and they haven't spent the time in their lives to actually ask themselves, what is their mission? What is their dream? And it's something as kids that we're all brilliant at dreaming. We all want to be astronauts and firemen or nurses, doctors, lawyers, dentists, whatever, vets. whatever you want to be growing up, princesses if you're a girl, it depends what you want to be, but you dream so much as a kid and then you get older and you forget those dreams and you replace them with mundane rubbish that you really don't care about. So having a dream, having a purpose, and spending every day fulfilling that dream and purpose, again, helps you to overcome the hate when you do start to see it, because everybody will get hate. I remember I've just watched the David Beckham documentary where he had a red card during a World Cup game, or it was a Euros. Oh, he was the most hated man in Britain. Somebody had put like a cutout or a mannequin of him being hung outside of a pub, and everyone was cheering and it was in the papers, and everyone was like, most hated man in Britain.
Didn't know.
Have you not seen that?
No, I didn't know that one.
Crazy. That's David Beckham, who most people would look at as an icon, as a sort of, one of the most handsome men in the world, easily. Right. Look, it's true. I didn't say what you want, but the guy's a good looking bloke. And even he has hate, he's got everything. He's millionaire. He's one of the best footballers at the time. He was playing for Manchester United. He played for Real Madrid. He had millions in the bank. He had a family. He had a wife. And even he was suffering with the hate that was coming his way just for making let's call it a bad day at the office, making a challenge. He got a red card and he becomes the most hated man in the world. Now, if he'd have given in at that point, nobody would remember who he was now. He'd just be remembered as the guy that ruined our World Cup, even though it wasn't his fault.
We probably wouldn't have got there in the first place if it wasn't for him. I don't know about that.
And he wouldn't be where he is now, because if he'd have given into the hate, he wouldn't have achieved what he's achieved now.
You said about David Beckham then, and then probably, but it just made me think of Will Smith and people that have had moments where they've gone from, again, like being the most loved man on the planet, slapping a man.
That was a bad day at the office.
That was a very bad day at the office. But exactly that. You got to be able to get yourself out of the funk and try and sound out the noise and focus on yourself. And if that means deleting social media, if that's where you're getting the hate from, just delete it, or create a new profile, change your name if you really need to. No, definitely don't do that.
Step too far.
But, deleting some of these things. I mean, I've deleted my social media for times, and you just think, what's the point? Just get rid of it.
But then use that time. If you have deleted it, use the time to, as we've said, deposit into the happy bank and start to fill your time with things that are going to make you feel better about yourself. And again, shout out to Simon Squibb on that one. Genuinely, if you don't do this a lot, spend some time giving back to people, but not in this fake virtue signaling type of way. Don't go to people that are unfortunate enough to be living on the street, stick a camera in their face and say, "Are you homeless, mate? Do you want a coffee?" It's just you're only doing it for your own, to boost your own ego and boost your own sort of worth. And it's complete virtue signaling. It's complete disgrace. You shouldn't need to do a good deed. You shouldn't need to be watched to do it. We all do good deeds, but I think you should be doing it. It sounds weird saying it this way. You're doing it for yourself, but not to gain anything externally. You're doing it for the fulfillment internally, to know that you've actually done a good deed and helped someone and made a positive impact on their life. And that is when you've built up enough of like you said, self-worth, self-value, to have that thick skin. So when you do have to face hate, because we all will in life, whether it's you for your hair, me for being tall and lanky, or whatever it might be.
Podcast, probably.
Podcast, exactly. It could be another one. You're always going to face hate from someone. And that is how you're going to be best served to overcome it. So again, another probably good place to wrap up there. Unless you got anything else?
No, that's me.
Cool. Well, again, thanks very much. I think it's a few important topics from today. Think about giving back as much as possible, but absolutely make sure that you put in those deposits into the happy bank. And let us know, share your stories. If there are things that you're doing that you feel are making a positive impact on your own self-worth, put them in the comments or send us a message. Or if you're actually actively struggling with finding ways to improve your self-worth, please reach out to us, because we'd love to help. Send us a message on Instagram or comment below and we'll reach out to you and we'll do what we can to help out. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. and we'll see you in the next episode.